Hey, this is TheShankerr, commentating another game of League of Legends, and today I will be commentating Cho'Gath, Chair of the Void. Gonna be commentating this one a bit differently than usual. Instead of playing the game or commentating while I'm playing the game, I'm gonna be just showing some clip scenes of previous games that I've played as Cho'Gath, and telling you about Cho'Gath and what he's like and how to build him. So, what is Cho'Gath? Cho'Gath is a tank slash AP, but I have seen him play. I have seen Cho'Gath play AD, but I don't think that's the best decision, in my opinion. Uh, in the games that you'll be seeing, I played him as AP, sort of tank. On the first few games, I started off with Rod of Ages and decided to go a bit more tanky, depending on the team comp. It always depends on who's on your team and whether you have to tank a bunch, or really just depending on the game. That's a lot with every champion, though. So what are Cho'Gath's abilities? His first ability, Rupture, is his Q. It is an AoE nuke that is pretty difficult to land since it has a delay before it pops up. It knocks up the enemy for 1 second and also slows them for 60% for 3 seconds afterwards. His next ability is Feral Scream, which is a cone-shaped skill shot that silences the enemy for duration increasing per level from 2 to 3 seconds at level 5. It has a lot more sustained damage than the Rupture because it is a lot easier to land because Rupture has a delayed time. His next ability is Vorpal Spikes, which is basically a bonus to his attack damage, but it's AP, so it's sort of like getting a buffer of 20 to 80 damage depending on what level you have. Next ability is his ultimate, which is Feast. This is basically where Cho'Gath gets all of his health. You see Cho'Gath just growing during the entire game. You're like, why the hell is he getting so big? It's because he's getting up his Feast. As he levels up his Feast, he gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and the more Feasts he gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So, as Cho'Gath, you want to be constantly stacking your Feast, and then once you have 6, which is the maxed amount of Feast, you want to just use it for your damage, which is a lot of damage. And not only is this a lot of damage, but it's true damage. So Cho'Gath can go in and just eat someone with 1,000 magic resist. It wouldn't even matter, and he'd still do the exact amount that says that he'd do. He has a 0.7 AP ratio on that, so it's stacks really well with AP Cho'Gath, and it just destroys tanks. His passive is Carnivore, which lets Cho'Gath regain his AP, or his health and his mana, depending on the level, each time he kills a unit. So, in lane, Cho'Gath is basically unstoppable if you're able to last hit, because every single time he kills a unit, he recovers 30 health, and that might not seem a lot, but, I mean, it builds up over and over again. You just dominate a lane. When leveling up Cho'Gath's abilities, I like to start off with Rupture first because of the good CC and highest base damage. It also helps get first blood if I need it, and then I usually go into Feral Scream for the silence because that's always nice, and then depending on whether I have an easy target in lane, I go to another point in Rupture, or I get Vorpal Spikes if I want to be last hitting a bit more, because in my opinion it's a lot easier to last hit with Vorpal Spikes because it doesn't cost any mana, and the Rupture costs quite a bit of mana with Cho'Gath's starting mana pool. And then I continue getting up Rupture as much as possible until I have to level up either Feral Scream or my ultimate. This is for more of a nuke type of build, but I know a lot of people that like to build Cho'Gath as more of a sustained damage, with Feral Scream being leveled up first, and even people that get up their Vorpal Spikes first. So there's really no right or wrong on how you level Cho'Gath, but I mean, I like to do it with Rupture way, so if you want to do it my way, I'd get Rupture first. With summoner spells, I like to go Flash and Ignite, but Exhaust and Cleanse are also possible. Smite if you're jungling, but I'm not going to be really covering jungling since I don't think it's that viable. But I like to get Ignite because after you feast someone, it's like, Oh, they only have 100 health left. What do? I don't have anything else to finish them off. I just use all of my abilities. Just ignite them, and then you're done. It also helps late game with the heals and shutting down any supports that are just screwing up your team because they're healing all of the carries and there's just nothing you can do. Another summoner spell that I really like to take as Cho'Gath is Exhaust because it shuts down those 80 carries. And Cleanse is also good because if they have a bunch of CC on their team, all you have to do is cleanse out of something and you're free to do whatever you want. With Masteries, I would basically take all of the points that you possibly can in the summoner spells that you got, but I usually like to go 9-0-21 with a point in the magic penetration and getting all the cooldown reduction possible in the utility. A lot of people like to go 9-21-0 or 21 or 0-21-9 even because Cho'Gath is just so versatile that people play him so many different ways. But I like going 9-0-21 because I like the damage and I like being able to my cooldowns come off of CD by the time I need to use them again. I also like to have 9-0-21 because if you're too tanky, then there's no point in targeting you. So, I mean, if you can't do damage, then what's the point of targeting a tank? And you can't even be able to be a tank because you'll run into a fight and they'll be like, oh, why would we use our abilities on him if he can't even hurt us? So what's the point? Talking about not being too tanky, let's talk about Cho'Gath's build order. Well, Cho'Gath is an ability power champion. Well, at least that's where he gets all of his damage from. So you're going to want to build him AP. You're going to want to get core items such as Rod of Ages, Frozen Heart, Brylas is sometimes good on him. Abyssal Scepter is sometimes good is good on him, but Ryla Scepter is only really necessary if you need a lot of CC. But in the very beginning laning phase, I like to go with Adoran's Ring, Sapphire Crystal if I'm laning bottom, but I'll rarely be laning bottom as Cho'Gath. If you're laning bottom as Cho'Gath, your team comp can't be that good, or you guys are just making poor decisions. Because Cho'Gath is a solo laner, he needs to be laning solo so he can get the farm he needs and the feast stacks he needs. So, what type of boots should you get on Cho'Gath? You should get either Merc Treads if they have a bunch of CC on their team, Boots of Swiftness if you just want to be really fast and speedy and you don't think that CC is going to be a problem. Or if there's more attack damage champions on their team, such as Master Yi or people that auto attack a bunch and just destroy your health, you need to get Ninja Tabi for the dodge and also the armor. And they also are the cheapest boots, so that's pretty nice. And if you are going to be roaming more as Cho'Gath, which I don't recommend, but you should get boots mobility. And there's really no deciding your boots before the game starts. You have to see what champions are on the other team and what you really need to be looking out for. I like to get Merc Treads almost always. It's a good choice, and Boots of Swiftness can't be a bad choice either. But after my tier 1 boots, which are the 350 gold pieces to cost, I like to go Catalyst of Protector, which can be either built into Banshee's Veil or Rod of Ages after you build your second tier boot, which is things like Merc Treads or whatever. And depending on whether the team is just heavy magic damage, you want to get Banshee's Veil, and if you're just already doing well and you want to just get enough of AP that you can just destroy people, get a Rod of Ages because it also increases your health by a bunch, and you want to make sure that you get Rod of Ages first because the passive on it increases your mana and your health over the time that you have it, so you want to get that as soon as possible. After that, another core item that you want to get as Cho'Gath is Frozen Heart because it's just always a good item. Like, it gives you so much armor, it gives you mana, it gives you that passive which slows the enemy if they auto attack you, and it's just all over a good item in my opinion. Another core item as Cho'Gath is Force of Nature because the health regen with your amount of health that you have is just ridiculous. It's like you can go into a fight get bursted down, run out, wait for maybe 10 seconds while the fight's still going on, and you'll have a fourth of your health back and you can run back in. Because by that time you have as much health as their carry probably does. But every other item besides that is basically your choice, depending on whether you want to go more AP, get a Rabadon's, get Abyssal Scepter. Abyssal Scepter is a really good choice as well because of it gives you magic resist and also decreases everyone around you's magic resist as well. So it has a good debuff, and it also gives you a big damage reduction against the ability power that's coming in as you. Zanya's Hourglass, my bad, is another item that is pretty good on Cho'Gath, because if you're getting focused down just way too hard, which, I don't know, it happens sometimes if you got a Kog'Maw on the other team or something like that, you can just Zanya's Hourglass and you're fine for 2 seconds, I guess. But other than that, every item is really up to you. You want to make sure you get your core items: Rod of Ages, Merc Treads, Force of Nature, Frozen Heart, and you'll be a solid Cho'Gath. Just make sure you have your feast stacks up, and you're good. So that's about all it with Cho'Gath, and if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments or send me a private message. It's whatever. Subscribe and like this, and that's about all I have for Cho'Gath. The next few clips will just be music playing.